The moment we loaded up this game, we thought it was just another creepy school setting. You know the type: dim hallways, old lockers with peeling paint, a couple of flickering lights that buzz so loud you feel like they're inside your head. At first, we were joking around, laughing, even making fun of how cliché it looked. But then, things changed. We had barely moved a few steps when the sound hit us, a single metallic clang, like someone slamming a door way down the hallway. We froze. No monster on screen, no tutorial pop-up, just that sound. My stomach dropped. I remember saying, "Wait, was that scripted, or did something actually move?" My friend didn't even answer. He just whispered, "Don't." Then the PA system overhead crackled to life. The speakers hissed with static, like they were trying to tune into a frequency. I thought maybe it was just ambience until the words came through, garbled at first, but then clear enough to understand. "This is not a drill." We looked at each other. I laughed nervously, like, "Okay, nice touch, they're going for realism." But before we could process it, the alarm lights on the wall flicked on. A deep red glow pulsed down the corridor, painting everything in shadow. Then came the noise. Beep. Beep, beep, the lockdown alarm, ear-piercing, mechanical, relentless. It didn't stop. It didn't fade. It grew louder, echoing off the walls until it felt like the building itself was screaming. And then the doors started slamming shut. One after another, metal shutters dropped over classroom doors, heavy locks snapping into place. Boom, 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 each one echoing closer to us, trapping us deeper inside the school. We spun around to try and run back the way we came, but the path was already sealed. Locked tight, that's when I realized this wasn't just a spooky hallway simulator. We were trapped. The game wasn't giving us an option to leave. We moved forward, slow, hesitant, the alarm still screaming in our ears. The sound of our own footsteps felt deafening in the silence between each blare. And then everything stopped. The alarm cut off mid-beep, leaving only the faint crackle of the PA system. We stood in that silence for what felt like forever. My palms were sweaty on the controller, my chest tight. And just when I thought maybe the game had glitched, footsteps from somewhere down the hall, slow and heavy. Not AI footsteps, not looping background noise. These sounded human, deliberate, getting closer. I felt every hair on my arms stand up. My friend whispered, "Don't move, don't move." But then, from the edge of the hallway, a shadow appeared, long, stretched across the wall by the flickering emergency lights. And that's when everything went wrong. The shadow stretched across the wall, long and warped, like someone or something was just around the corner. My first thought was, okay, maybe it's just part of the background design, a scare to make us panic. But then it moved, slowly. The shadow's arm twitched like it was reaching for something, and the sound of those footsteps got louder. We didn't wait around. We started edging down the opposite hallway, sticking close to the lockers, and that's when it hit me how detailed this place was. It wasn't just a generic school layout. No, this was too real. The walls were painted that ugly beige color every school seems to have. The lockers weren't pristine. They were dented, scratched, some with graffiti carved into them. I even noticed one had a little paper note stuffed in the vent, like a student had written something before running out. I actually stopped for a second, crouched in the game, and tried to interact with it, and that's when I saw it. Just a few words scrawled in pencil. "Don't trust the doors." I backed away from the screen like, nope, nope, that's not a random texture, that's a warning. Meanwhile, the alarms were still pulsing red. Every flicker made the hallway stretch and warp, shadows crawling across the ceiling. The echo of our footsteps mixed with the creaks of the building, making it feel like someone or something was always behind us. Then the PA system crackled again. This time it wasn't garbled static, it was clearer. A low, steady voice repeating the same phrase over and over. This is a lockdown. Remain in your classrooms. This is not a drill. This is a lockdown. At first, I thought, okay, creepy background loop. But then it stuttered. The recording glitched, skipping words until it said something completely different. They can't escape. I swear, my chest tightened when I heard that. I pulled the headset half off my ears because for a split second, I thought the voice hadn't come from the game at all. It sounded like it was right behind me in the room. We decided to duck into one of the classrooms to get our bearings. Bad idea. The door creaked as we pushed it open, and inside it looked like the students had just gotten up and left in the middle of class. Papers scattered on the floor, desks overturned, a pencil still rolling slowly across the floor like it had just dropped. I whispered, "Dude, this is giving me found footage vibes, like we're about to see what happened here." And then bang! The hallway door behind us slammed shut so hard the screen shook. I actually jumped out of my chair. We spun around in the game, but the door was locked, trapped. The only light in the room flickered, buzzing like it was about to burn out. The sound of footsteps echoed again, closer now. The clock on the wall ticked louder and louder, every second stretching into forever. We huddled behind a desk, crouched, waiting, hoping the game would let us stay hidden. My friend whispered through his mic, "What if it's not a monster? What if it's someone else?" I didn't answer. I didn't want to, because deep down, I already knew something was about to find us, and then the doorknob started to turn. The sound of the knob rattling froze us in place. You know when you're in a game, and you know it's scripted, but your brain refuses to move anyway. That's exactly how it felt. We just crouched there, staring at the classroom door, while the handle twisted left, then right, then back again. I whispered into my mic, "Don't move, just don't move." The door creaked open, slowly, painfully slow, like whoever, or whatever, was outside wanted us to hear every second of it. The hallway light bled into the room in this pale strip across the floor, cutting over the broken desks and the papers scattered everywhere. And then a shadow fell across that strip. It wasn't big, not some towering monster silhouette. It looked human. The shape of legs, an arm, a torso. My stomach flipped because that somehow felt worse. At least with a monster, you know it's just the game. But this looked like someone was actually standing there. I held my breath. The shadow didn't move for a long time. Just stood there, watching, and then the sound of breathing, slow, heavy, right on the other side of the door. I swear I could hear it through my headset like it was right behind me in my own room. My friend whispered, "He's just standing there, dude. What do we do?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My mouth was dry. My chest was so tight I felt like I might actually pass out. Finally, the figure stepped inside. But it wasn't what we were expecting. It wasn't a creature or some grotesque monster design. It was a man. A tall figure in what looked like a security guard uniform. The flashlight in his hand cut across the desks, blinding us for a split second. Instinctively, we ducked lower behind the desk, praying the game wouldn't make him spot us. The guard moved slowly, scanning the room with his light. For a moment, I thought, oh, maybe this is friendly. Maybe he's here to help us. But then he spoke. The voice wasn't distorted, wasn't robotic. It was calm, steady, too real. And he said, "They can't leave the school alive." I ripped one earphone halfway off because it didn't even sound like the game. It sounded like someone was whispering directly into my ear. My friend muttered, "Did you hear that? Please tell me you heard that too." I whispered back, "That's not in the script. That can't be." The flashlight beam swung past us. For one horrible second, I thought we were done, that he was going to lunge at us and the game would end. But instead, he turned toward the blackboard at the front of the room. His light lingered there, illuminating words scrawled in messy chalk. "Stay quiet." And then the light snapped off. The whole room went dark. We sat there, crouched, not moving, not even breathing into the mic. The only sound was the ticking of that old classroom clock, louder and louder, like it was counting down to something. Then the door slammed shut, and we were trapped in the dark with him. The slam of that door was like a gunshot. My headphones rattled, my chest lurched forward, and for a second I actually thought I had knocked something off my desk. That's how real it felt. The room went pitch black, no flashlight, no glow from the hallway, nothing. Just darkness. I froze, listening, waiting for footsteps, waiting for something, but instead nothing. Just silence, not even the sound of breathing anymore. I whispered, "Is he gone?" My friend didn't answer. He just breathed into the mic, quick and shaky. Then the game flickered. Just for half a second the screen glitched, like static across an old TV. And when it cleared, the classroom wasn't the same. The walls looked older. The wallpaper peeled away in strips, revealing rotted wood underneath. The floor was covered in dust now, thick dust, like no one had set foot in this place for decades. And the writing on the chalkboard, oh my God, the writing had changed. Instead of "Stay quiet" in messy chalk, now it was written in thick, dripping red. "He hears everything." I actually pushed back from my chair when I saw it. My friend whispered, "No, no, no, that wasn't there before." And then we heard it. The lock on the door clicking, not opening, locking. I said, "We're trapped. We're literally trapped." We ran to the door in game, hammering the interact button, but nothing worked. It just rattled, rattled, rattled. I swear I could feel the vibration in my controller. The PA system above us kicked in again, spitting static, before that same low voice bled through. "They can't leave." It didn't sound like the guard this time. It sounded closer, whispered, like it was right behind me in my room. I pulled my headphones half off again, and for a moment, I didn't even want to look at my screen. Then, out of nowhere, the light from the guard's flashlight flickered on again. But this time, it wasn't coming from his hand. It was on the floor, lying sideways, spinning slowly like he had dropped it. I whispered, "Wait, where is he?" We crouched in the corner of the classroom, staring at that spinning flashlight beam cutting across the floor. The shadows it threw on the walls looked warped, stretched, wrong. 1 second, it looked like nothing. The next second, it looked like something huge was crouched just outside our vision. And then, the chalk scraped across the board on its own. Loud nails on chalkboard loud. New words carved themselves into the blackboard, letter by letter. "Run." My stomach dropped. I whispered, "Run where? We're locked in here." My friend said, "Check the windows." Check the windows. I bolted across the classroom, every step echoing louder than it should have. And when I reached the window, the glass was fogged, completely white like it was snowing outside. I wiped at it with the character's hand, and for a second I could see outside. But what I saw didn't look like the school grounds. It looked like nothing, just blackness, endless void. I leaned back in my chair, heart pounding, and said, "This isn't just a school. This is something else." And then the whole screen went red. Just for a second, a flash, like blood smeared across the lens. The lock on the door clicked again. And slowly it began to creak open. The creak of that door opening was the loudest sound I had ever heard in a game. I swear my whole body tensed up, waiting for something to lunge out, but nothing came through, just the slow scrape of metal on tile, the hinges crying out as the door swung wider and wider. We didn't wait. The message on the chalkboard had already said it, "Run," so we bolted, out of the classroom, down the hall, sprinting past lockers that stretched on forever. The alarms kicked back in, screaming red light after red light into the darkness. The sound of our footsteps pounded in sync with my heartbeat, and then boom. Something slammed the lockers right behind us, hard enough to make the whole hallway shake. The sound rattled through my headphones. I actually yelled, "He's right behind us." We didn't look back, couldn't. Every hallway felt the same. Rows of lockers, broken ceiling tiles, posters peeling off the walls. But the deeper we ran, the worse it got. The lights flickered violently, buzzing like angry bees, plunging us into darkness, then blinding us in bursts. And in those bursts, I swear we saw him, the security guard. No, not a guard anymore. His face didn't look human in the light. Blurred, distorted, like a mask stretched too tight over something else. Every time the lights flickered, he was closer. 10 steps back, then 5, then 2. We dove into the cafeteria, pushing through the double doors. The second we entered, the lights cut out completely. Pitch black, we stopped running, pressed against the wall, trying not to breathe into the mic. And that's when the PA system crackled again. This time it didn't say this is not a drill. It didn't say they can't leave. It whispered clear. Direct, I see you. I'm not exaggerating, my skin crawled. I actually reached for the volume dial because I couldn't stand how close it sounded. Like it wasn't coming from the speakers anymore. Like it was coming from inside the room. My friend whispered, "He's in here with us. I swear he's in here." I wanted to argue, but then I heard it too, breathing, not ours, slow, heavy breathing, from somewhere in the cafeteria, moving between the rows of tables. We crouched and started inching forward, staying low, trying not to make a sound. My heart was racing so hard I thought the mic would pick it up. Every time the wood floor creaked under us, I winced, waiting for something to grab us. Then out of nowhere, crash. A tray flew off one of the tables, clattering to the ground. The breathing stopped. Silence. We didn't move. Not an inch, then the voice again, louder this time, "Run." The lights blasted on, flooding the cafeteria with harsh white, and there he was. Standing on the tables, tall, wrong, head tilted too far to one side, watching us with a face that didn't look like a face at all anymore. We didn't think, we just sprinted. Out the back doors of the cafeteria, down another endless hallway. The alarms blared again, the whole building shook. Behind us, footsteps thundered, closer and closer, chasing us like they weren't bound by the game's mechanics. We reached the end of the hallway, the exit doors. We almost cried with relief, finally a way out. But when we reached them, chains, thick metal chains, wrapped tight around the handles. The whole door rattled when we pulled, but it wouldn't budge. I screamed into the mic, "They're locked! They're locked!" Behind us, the footsteps stopped. We turned. And there he was, at the end of the hallway, not moving, not chasing, just watching, waiting. That's when I knew the real nightmare wasn't about being chased. It was about being trapped. And the worst part, we weren't sure it was just a game anymore. We stood frozen in front of those chained exit doors, our characters hammering at the handles, rattling them so loud it echoed through the entire hallway. But no matter how hard we tried, they wouldn't move. The chains didn't even look like part of the game, they looked real. Rusted, heavy, like somebody had physically welded us in. Behind us, the figure stood still, just watching. Not charging, not attacking, almost like he wanted us to waste our energy. My friend whispered, "He's just waiting. He knows we can't leave." The red emergency lights above us flickered. Flicker, dark, and every time they came back on, he was closer, at the far end, then halfway down, then only a few feet away. We backed against the chained doors. Controllers clutched so tight my hands hurt. And then the lights cut out completely. Total blackness, silence. I sat there, not even breathing, waiting for the inevitable jump scare. But nothing happened, no sound, no footsteps, no scream, just emptiness. Then the PA system crackled back on, louder than ever, screeching static into our ears. I ripped one earphone halfway off, grimacing until the static cut out, and a voice whispered, "You're not leaving." The screen on my monitor flashed. Red for a split second, then it flickered again like the game was glitching, and when it cleared, we weren't in the hallway anymore. We were outside the school, or what looked like outside. The ground stretched into a black void, endless in every direction. The school stood behind us, warped and broken. windows glowing faintly red. In the distance, shapes moved. Not human shapes. Tall, bent, unnatural things. Watching, I whispered, "This isn't the game anymore. This isn't right." We turned our characters toward the school doors, still chained shut. And then we heard it breathing right behind us. We spun the camera around, and there he was, the figure, the so-called guard, but this time his face was clear, and it wasn't human. Hollow sockets where the eyes should be. A mouth that stretched too wide, like someone had carved it open, and yet, somehow, it was smiling. The screen shook violently, static tearing across the display. He raised a hand, pointing straight at us, and the voice boomed louder than ever, "Game over." The screen went black. No menu, no restart button, just black. We sat there in silence. My friend finally broke it. "Dude, I'm done. I'm uninstalling. I can't." And honestly, I couldn't blame him, because it didn't feel like we'd just played a horror game. It felt like we'd been trapped in something else. Something that wanted us there. Something that maybe still does. So yeah, it's safe to say, we're never opening that game at night again. But if you guys want us to test the hard mode, where apparently he doesn't just watch, he chases you through every single room until sunrise, then smash that like button and let us know in comments, because next time we might not make it out.